Joining us on the Western Hotline is our friend Jerry Ostroski, who is, of course, always talking Bills and always up for a conversation on the offensive line. He'll join me later today on the Bill Squad show on YouTube. Jerry, good morning.
What's going on, J-Dub?
How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm just, I'll tell you what, I'm just sitting here watching the British Open on one screen, looking at Bill's information on the other screen. I have to tell a funny story. I'm sitting here, and my wife goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm getting ready to go on with Jeremy." She goes, "You are not going on a podcast without a shirt on." I'm like, I'm doing the radio, babe. This is radio magic, so all's good.
Yeah, now that we started streaming this show on YouTube, I've got to wear a shirt every day, which is different for us here in the radio studio. Jerry, we played that clip coming in. Brian Baldinger talking about Dion Dawkins. If there's one thing I know you love to talk about, I mean, line play, of course, but Dawkins is one of your dogs, right? Like, you love Dion.
Right.
And that clip from Baldinger, I like what was the phrase he used? He'll break your sword. Talk to us about what that really means. Like, what Dawkins does that breaks a player, like Jared Verse breaks his sword.
Well, you got these guys now that are using long arm techniques in the pass rush and all that, and doing different things. And Dawkins uses what his version of the snatch trap technique is the ice pick. You watch Spencer Brown; he's using a version of it. Heck, Osiris Torrance is now using a version of it as well. But you're going to get a defensive lineman's going to get hands on them, and they think they're in proper and a good position. And next thing you know, Dion has broke you down, and you're on the ground in a couple of seconds. And he's gotten the ability now to beat what has been the most problematic move for a lot of tackles, which is the teaching of this long arm technique. He's done a wonderful job with it. And then the thing about it is he doesn't just beat it. He destroys it, and then he punishes you for trying to do it, which is, to me, one of the coolest things I've seen in quite some time.
Over the course of his career, Jerry, like when you saw Dawkins come in, how much has he developed in terms of this exact skill set you're talking about? How much has developed over time? Sometimes we talk about quarterbacks and it's, the light goes on or this or that, or, players fit into a scheme better. How much has Dawkins changed from day one to today?
Oh, he's changed quite a bit. I mean, Dion's a guy that has the one thing he can't coach. He's 6'4", he's 330 pounds, he's massive, he's got 35-inch arms, and he's a heck of an athlete. And, he came in, he has those things you can't teach, and then you go ahead and you start developing them. And the thing about Dion is there's guys that like to play, and there's guys that like to, be successful. Then there's guys that like to dominate and assert themselves in their will, and he's always had that. He's got that competitive edge. He's an amazing competitor. And so those types of guys are dudes that want to learn. They want to take in as much as they can. Then you add an Aaron Cromer to the mix, who we all know is one of the most regarded O-line coaches in the league, and he just takes them to the next level. But a big part of offensive line play as far as development is, the 10,000 rep thing is really, really true at that position. It's one of the more boring positions to watch. I mean, we do the same thing pretty much every day. We take the same steps, we do the same blocking techniques over and over and over again until they're ingrained. So, there's practice, but then you got to be able to do that stuff off the field and work and those types of things. And Dion has that, and, it means something to him, and you can see it in the way he plays.
Yeah. Jerry Ostroski, I saw he was ranked the third best tackle by Brandon Thorne, who's, we're getting a little, the NFL content season, it's list season, but we've got offensive lineman love, and Brandon Thorne's one of these accounts that really focuses in on this, and he had his top 5 tackles, put him only behind, was it Tristan Wirfs? And was he third or fourth? He was
Dion was third. So
fourth.
He put him behind.
He put him fourth behind Trent Williams, Tristan Wirfs, and Rashawn Slater, but fourth.
Yeah. And see, I think Trent Williams is probably to me anyway, is the comparison to Dion. That's like he's just another even more dominant version of Dion. To me, Dion and Trent Williams are very similar.
Yeah. How about like the style of play? Because one of the things about this list, this top 5 left tackles list that has Williams at number 1, he's 37. Like, is it normal, do you think, for the kind of skill set to to last a long time? I mean, do you see some tackles and say the way that guy plays, he won't make it, versus the way that this guy plays, he will? I mean, Jason Peters played forever. Does Dawkins strike you as a guy that's got a lot of years left?
I do. I think he's a guy that has a lot of years left. He doesn't take, Dion's not an O-lineman that takes a ton of abuse. He's not it's kind of hard to describe. I mean, there's O-linemen, like I considered myself one of those O-linemen that took a lot of abuse. I mean, I was a stick my face in there, grind guy, trying to play physical all the time and all that. Dion has the athletic ability, and he did have a interview recently where he says he looks at himself as a finesse tackle, and I'm like, okay, and we made a joke about that. But it's true. Like, he can avoid physicality when he wants to. He can win with his feet and his athleticism as well as his physical style of play, where some of us just have to be physical all the time. You look at these guys like a Jackie Slater or Trent Williams at 37 still playing at a high level, and, it goes back to my old thing. It just shows the guys that play that long, to me, are dudes that were unbelievably talented early in their careers, because a guy like Trent Williams, who's starting to have some injury issues with his ankles, but he's been relatively healthy. Trent Williams is so talented that 75% Trent Williams is better than 95% of the rest of the league. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the guys that are super, the elites, can play longer because as their skill sets diminish with age, they're still better than most everybody else in the league. They're just freaks.
Yeah.
And, Trent's one of those guys, but I could see Dion playing a long time. He stays relatively healthy. The style of play he has, he's able to win with his feet and his physicality. I think he'll be around for a while, honestly.
On to the other side, Brandon Thorne's offensive lineman rankings. He put Spencer Brown as the third best right tackle in the league. So the Bills have number 4 on the left and number 3 on the right, behind only Lane Johnson and Penei Sewell, which is a pretty big nod for Spencer Brown. Like, I've been waiting to see if he was going to make the top 100 for the NFL. I don't think he will. But number 3 overall for Brandon Thorne, Spencer Brown, another one who, I don't know, Jerry, 2 years ago maybe, we wondered if this guy was going to put it together. There's a back injury, and the Bills extend him early, and, man, they got a deal because Brown really has become a fully finished product.
I think the biggest thing what he says about Spencer Brown, and if you're an O-line junkie, I mean, I've got a lot of respect for Brandon Thorne. He does his work. He researches. He watches a ton of film. He's connected. And he's actually ranked the top 15 at every position in the league, and every Bills player has made his top 15. But the interesting thing about Brown is, he calls him on paper the most athletic tackle in league history. And, he had to develop confidence. He had to develop technique. And, technique unlocks what you have physically. We got through the back issues, so he's healthy. And when you're healthy, you can, you play pain-free. That's a big deal. And then all of a sudden he was able to unlock those physical gifts he has through his technique. And you've seen that. I mean, his technique is impeccable. His drive catch phase in the pass rush is really, really good. It's Lane Johnson-like. They're very similar. Lane and Spencer, if you want to call Spencer Brown a cheap version of Lane Johnson, that's fine. They're very, very similar. They play a lot of the same ways. I think Spencer, though, is probably even more physical than Lane Johnson is. He's also developed that snatch trap technique as well. But I mean, I think the medical staff did a great job with him. Got him through his back injuries, which was able to get him in the weight room to those things, and then unlock those physical gifts. If he stays healthy, he's another guy that I could see playing for quite some time.
Jerry Ostroski joining us on the Western Hotline. The next part of the line question, Jerry, is what the Bills decide to do. Conor McGovern, Osiris Torrance. I mean, these are two guys playing at a high level as well. And to figure out which guy is going to stay, because they're both probably due some big contracts. Do you have a choice, one over the other, when we ultimately get to that conversation?
Well, if you go ahead and put me to the fire and you say I have to choose one over the other, I'd probably take Osiris Torrance over Conor McGovern. I just think the upside is that much greater for Torrance. I mean, let's look at Torrance. I mean, he's 6'5". I mean, he's a huge guard, 6'5", 350. He's got a big wingspan. He's an anchor guy, like Dion and Spencer. He's very good with his snatch trap technique. gets leverage and all those different things. You know, I think that he still, we talk about it on here, he still has some issues with some speed guys inside, especially in pass rush and sometimes right off the snap in the run game. It takes him a little bit to get out of the stance sometimes. He has some speed issues, but I think those will get cleaned up. He's got the tools and the size to be elite. And you look at him, he's going into his fourth year in the league, and he's established himself as one of the best guards in the league. I think that his upside's tremendous. You know, McGovern's on the center list. He's the last ranked center on the list. Conor's an interesting guy. He does a really good job. He plays high. He's kind of a high leverage guy. He reminds me a lot of, that's how Kent Hull used to play. He was a high leverage guy. He's not overly, unlike Dawkins and Torrance and Brown, he doesn't quite have the anchor ability that those guys do, so he tries to win quick with his hands to stop power and those types of things. You know, we're splitting hairs here. I'd love to keep both. I think both are good players. But if I had to choose one over the other, I'd probably take Torrance, just the fact of his age and the fact of his ceiling. I think he can even be better than he is already.
Jerry O talking offensive line with us as we're 6 days away from the start of Bill's training camp or first practice. Jerry, I saw Alec Anderson yesterday. He was out at an event at the BFLL store for 716 Day, and it struck me, I've never talked to you about him and the role he plays in this offense. They got him to a new contract, and, you know, as the sixth offensive lineman, the Bills ran that more than anybody in the league, and Alec Anderson became a household name. I was impressed. You know, you'd be happy. I think Bills fans would be pretty proud to see how many people showed out to see Alec Anderson get a signing. What do you make of him? How have you liked his game as he's become a feature in this Bills offense?
I think Alec is an interesting prospect. I think he's kind of followed that same lineage as David Edwards did before he came into the starting role at left guard. David Edwards also on Brandon Thorne's list of one of the top left guards ranked in the top 15. If we do let David Edwards go, which I think the consensus feels like they will, I think Alec has a really good chance of stepping in and taking over that left guard spot. I think that's what they're developing him to do. You know, even though he's playing that tight end or that jumbo spot, it still snaps on the field. He's getting experience. He's involved. I mean, he's an awesome swing. He's an awesome swing guy on the inside. He can play center. He can play both guards. So, you know, one thing that this Bills team has done, I think, very well is they found a way to develop guys that are not starters and get them ready to take starting roles if somebody in front of them moves on. I think he'll get the first chance. He's another guy that plays physical. He likes to mix it up. I like that. I think that your offensive line sets the tone. It's, you know, as a group, we've always pride ourselves on being servant leaders, and he's one of those types of dudes. You always see him if another teammate, somebody pushes somebody, he's over there in the middle of it, helping guys up off the ground. I think he's a tremendous prospect. I think it'd be awesome to you know, see how he does, and if he can take that spot if David Edwards doesn't come back.
Jerry Ostroski on the Worcester Hotline. You got a pick for the British Open, the Open Championship here? I know you and I are big golf guys. Who are you rooting for here?
Well, I always root for Scotty, man. I like Scotty. He's not playing too badly right now. I thought I don't know. I always mess up his pronunciation. Aberg or however.
Oberg, yeah, Ludwig Oberg.
Oberg.
Yeah.
I thought that he has a chance here, but I'll tell you, this is an interesting golf course. If you're a junkie like we are, and I watch a ton of YouTube golf, there's a series out there with the Bryan brothers and Grant Horvat called Major Cut, and they actually got to play the course last week, a week before the Open, and you get a really intimate view of Royal Portbush and just what type of golf course it is. And it's not easy. I mean, it's definitely a tough course, but I like, you know, I always cheer for Scotty. Hopefully Scotty gets it done, but I'm sure there's some other guys that have a chance and will play well. But I like those two, Oberg, and I like Scheffler.
All right, very good. Scotty, I think, is now 1 under. He's like, I've seen him bounce a little bit up and down, which you don't often see from Scheffler. He doesn't get a lot of bogeys out there. He's been at 2, back to 1, then back to 2, then back to 1. So we'll see. Jacob Skov Olesen. And that's who's leading. Matthew Fitzpatrick is 1 stroke off, so he's up near the top as well. Jerry Ostroski on the Western Hotline.
Nobody's running away with it right now.
No, not yet. You can find Jerry, of course, on the Overreaction Buffalo podcast, the Overreaction Sports Network, and on the Locked On Bills channel as well. He does the Bill Squad show with me and Joe Marino on Mondays and Thursdays. Jerry, we'll talk in a little bit. Thanks again.
All right, buddy. We'll see you later, Jeremy.
All right, Jerry Ostroski on the offensive line. Hearing Jerry rave about Dawkins, it's great. Calls him one of his favorite players in the league, and nice to see Dawkins getting that recognition, like that level of love.